That was a fine thing he did that.
Eternal and most gracious God, we come today just to tell you thank you for this gathering. That Master, we pray that this meeting will be held for the purpose which it was called, and that is to take care of the people's business. And that Master, be a guide and a hedge around us. May we conduct ourselves decent and in order. It's our servant's prayer. Amen.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk tonight is Lynn Coates. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Maxine Miller.
Here.
Latoya Harris. St. Columbia. Absent. Mr. Etherly. Monica Davis.
Here.
And Kyle Miller.
All right, the purpose of this meeting is to, we established we do have a quorum, I'm sorry. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss the related items to the 23 budget. So the first department we'll hear from tonight is the landfill. So I'll call Mr. Philip Fields to give us what from.
Evening. Fields and Associates performs the landfill engineering. And tonight, just want to give you another update on the status of the landfill. Last week, the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality conducted an inspection of the site based upon a complaint. They identified pretty much the same issues that have been in the prior inspection reports. The formal report has not been completed, and so I don't have a copy with me to present for the council. But for the most part, the issues identified is related to the lack of cover dirt, and most of those issues could be addressed through that. So, based on what I'm gathering on the site, that we're probably about 2 to 3 months behind on the cover soil, and this needs to be addressed fairly rapidly. There's also too, the waste has been placed in the wrong place. That's above permitted grades. That needs to be moved as well. And then as an additional item, the class 4 landfill has been in the process of closure. And we need to get that completed sometime in the near future. And this will involve removing the waste and placing it within the class 1 landfill. It's nearly complete, but it's still probably another month's worth of work left to complete that. But, based upon what I'm seeing out there, I'd like to make some recommendations for as maybe preventing some of this from occurring again in the future. And of course, equipment is a major part of it, which we're addressing as it is now. But I think also too, going forward, we need to look at hiring some additional landfill operators to, assist with all the efforts out there. And we need some people that are truly qualified, that understand equipment, understand how to maintain it, and, can hit the ground running and get these items addressed. So what I'm thinking is maybe an additional 2 operators. A way we could work this to the near term to handle the remediation was 2 of the operators could be responsible for working the trash in the active phase, getting the cover dirt placed down. The other 2 operators could be responsible for bringing the cover dirt, doing some of the remediation activities out there, and getting all this addressed. As we go forward, that additional personnel will give the landfill, more flexibility, in sickness or losing an employee. We can, be more agile and prevent some of this from occurring. And once when we get through, with the near term, the compliance issues, then these 2 additional operators could be assisting on maintaining the equipment, keeping it clean, doing site maintenance, and some of those activities. So this would put the landfill in a lot better position going forward. One thing that we needed to look at to keep the stability in place, of course, is salaries and, keeping, them at a competitive wage. Equipment operators are hard to come by. They're basically with the current situation with construction, and everything, they're kind of hard to find to begin with, just they're tied up. I mean, they've got jobs. So that's kind of on the personnel side to help address these issues. And of course, on the other side is we still, they're making progress. Mr. Bruce Simpson and Tammy Simpson is here from the landfill. They made significant efforts and completed a lot of items out there, but there's, a lot to be completed. And for the near term, I know just talked to Mr. Valley about the track hoe, and he's looking into trying to maybe find something for the near term to give us a stopgap to get that in place, which would help speed up some of the efforts out there and get the landfill back in compliance a little bit quicker order.
So with the operators, do you recommend a starting salary for the operators?
I'd have to ask, Bruce is more probably versed on salary since he was in private industry before coming back to the landfill.
Yes, there's a couple of guys that I have worked with before and previously. I know we are talking about the two.
Well, we're actually, that's the salary wise, how much would you think?
We're at 13 starting out, and they top off at 15. To me, that's far from where we need to be. I'm thinking maybe 15 to 18. 15 to 18 would be fair. It might keep them around.
Quantify the 15 to 18. Per what?
Well, starting out at 15 with a less
Per what?
experience, less experience.
Is that per day?
That's per hour.
Oh,
We're trying to change it from that.
but you said you need $15 to $18 per hour for each new operator.
I would think so. I mean, no, here on out that, I don't know when it was set for 13 to 15 is what we're at now, but I would think now, that should be at least, you're not going to keep an operator or even get an operator for that $13 an hour, $14 an hour. If you got 3 years experience, $14 an hour. You got 30 years, you get 15. And it just ain't, they're not gonna stay. They're not gonna take care of your equipment, and it's like a horse. I don't like a horse, but if you get on a horse and you don't know what to do with it, it's gonna tell you about it. It's gonna show you, that equipment's the same way. You go to run it and it's the wrong way and you won't realize it, it's going down on you. And that's when they talk about 30, 80, $100,000.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Man, I have a question, Mr. Field. Mr. Field,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned that the landfill was 2 to 3 months behind on cover. You realize this is a new administration,
Right. Yes, sir.
so it's been in place 20 days or so.
Right.
So there's 2 or 3 months. Has there been an ongoing problem with the landfill?
Yes, sir. From what I've gathered, the damage to that off-road truck occurred sometime in June. And I'm not sure exactly how much of a period of time that it's been down since June, but pretty much around November 1st, that piece of equipment went totally down. And for whatever reason, they didn't order the part for it till somewhere around, I think it's November 8th. The part didn't arrive until 2 months later to January 9th. So, basically for at least a minimum of 2 months, there was no off-road truck running, which would haul the cover dirt, which would, prevent a lot of these issues that have occurred.
Right. Now, did ADQ make a visit to the landfill recently?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was last week, and that was the one that was as a result of a complaint received by the Department of Environmental Quality.
Okay. And ADQ, when they usually come, how many people usually inspect the landfill?
Normally one, and on this trip, there was a total of 4, including a supervisor. Actually, he's over the compliance section at ADQ, Mr. Scott McWilliams. And there's also the regular inspector, Tobin Baker, and I don't remember the other two gentlemen that were out there.
All right. What was the nature of their reason for coming? What was the nature of the complaint?
The nature of the complaint was just in general that the landfill was, I haven't seen the actual complaint, but from what I understand is that the landfill was out of compliance, that nothing was being done that needed to be addressed. And so basically everything, from what I understand, that was given from the complainant to the Department of Environmental Quality pretty much mirrored some of those prior inspections. And then, of course, there's might be a few additional items identified with this group inspection.
All right. And from your conversations with the ADQ personnel, could you tell generally, like from where the complaint came? Not necessarily any particular person, but what's.
From what I understand, it was someone from the information I was gathered, it was someone that was near the landfill that made the complaint. But the exact name or anything like that, that might come out in the report. I'm not sure if they made them anonymous or if they actually identified themselves in it.
Right, and English is a tricky language. You said near the landfill. There's some
Right.
people who live out there near, but you mean somebody who was associated when you say near.
Yeah, there's I'm someone within this area. So yeah, I could cover, 200-300 square miles. We don't know exactly where that complaint came from.
Okay.
I was gonna add on this 2 to 3 months behind on the cover dirt. When we try to get caught up on this 2 to 3 months, the landfill don't stop. It's every day, it's steady bringing in the usual. So we gotta take care of that and try to get caught up. It's just 2 or 3 months, we'll be lucky to get it caught up. And that's hammering on it every day. 2 guys and maybe possibly I don't know, a rental truck. 1 truck does good. It gets us through, but that's why we're behind. I know they're expensive, even to rent them. But you can tell the difference in the end of the day, where you're getting with it. Because you try to take care of your daily trash, then you don't doing your 3 months, then you're cleaning up what it's too much on 1 truck. It just takes forever.
Mr. Simpson, you say you have, how many people do you currently have right now? I'm talking strictly about the budget. How many people do you have out there right now?
There's 5 of us.
5. But so that's what we had in the budget, but we didn't have that foreman person. So how do you feel about having like a foreman? Do you need the foreman? Do you want the foreman? Do you just, because we haven't had one. We haven't.
I basically got one here.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the right person for that.
No, what I'm saying is they have 5 people. They have 5. Well, he's an operator, so he.
But you had. We had one.
But they're not all operating.
Right, but you had one who's no longer out there. You had the current director, you had a deputy director out there, and then you had those other 4 workers out there. So
Okay.
the 2 of those positions that was out there are no longer out there.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get
You
at.
got the director, and, the deputy director we had out there had no license, no nothing. So
They're not all operators.
So.
They're not all in the equipment. They all.
Miss Simpson,
Hold on just a minute. We're gonna get you up. Mr. Simpson, we got another question for you.
Yes,
You were there when the ADQ people showed up.
I was.
Okay. And I want you to cut across the field. Just tell the city council what that involved. What did you have to do to convince them to leave the landfill open?
Walk with them around the whole, water boots, mud boots, knee deep. Just talk with them and I didn't get no excuses, whether I was there or I wasn't. It was all on me or not. And they know that I was I've done a lot for what I had. And they could tell, they knew that. And they seen progress. Whoever complained, knowed enough to know that they told them that there wasn't no licensed operators up there. When they got there, they was wanting to see license, which they do that anyway, but they was digging deeper into license. When I got to them, they wanted to know if there ain't nobody up, you know, handling the trash while I'm down there. Was I by myself? And no, they was told that there wasn't nobody doing that. You know, it's just a lot of little things that was told that it couldn't come from a neighbor or you know, individual that didn't know everything about the landfill.
Right, so you had worked at the landfill before,
I had.
at this particular landfill?
This is the only one I've ever worked at.
Okay, and then you came back recently?
I come back the middle of December. I was gone probably 5-6 months, and it was in bad shape when I got there. Well, actually, I got a phone call that I come up there. And when I got there, trash was running dang near to the scales. I mean, it was way out of where it's supposed to be. Had a one track hole running, and they couldn't get it cranked. And I had a dozer sitting beside it, and it was stuck. I managed to get the track hole started, and then I got the dozer unstuck, and we made a lot of progress for what we got.
Yes, sir.
And when I mentioned another truck, it ain't purchasing another truck. If it could be rented for 1 month, it would do big things. You can really tell.
Okay. Can we hear from Ms. Tammy now?
Yes, sir, you can.
Let me ask you.
Bruce?
Mr. Simpson.
So I want to make sure I understand this right. Okay, so we heard last time about equipment that was in disrepair, vandalized, whatever, poorly maintained. And you arrived in December,
Yes,
and when you arrived, the landfill was in whatever this condition that it was in December. I mean, that's correct, right?
yes,
And landfill knowledge is not something that people generally walk around with. I mean, I don't know all the rules and regulations.
it's not, it's,
So somebody called ADQ in an apparent attempt to have it shut down.
exactly.
And if I'm hearing you right, it seems like it's somebody who's been.
Previously, you know, exactly.
That's, I just want to make sure I was hearing that.
That's what I got out of all of it. When it was 4 of them, and it's usually one, and then what the thing that they was going toward and where they went, it wasn't just a neighbor.
So to put a bow on it, it's somebody who was there when they got in the safety this in, and went back and said, hey, go check it out, because this is what's going on.
Exactly.
And they didn't realize they were saying, I was there when it happened.
There you go.
They knew all the weak spots.
They did.
Yes.
So when was the last time they came down to visit the landfill?
AEQ,
Yeah. So how was it in November when they came?
I don't think they got wrote up for nothing in November. Covered.
There was some compliance issue, there was a leaching breakdowns,
Right.
there were some issues.
Okay, I wasn't there in November.
So Mr. When you got the report, how was the report in November? How was the report done in November? How did they say the landfill was in November?
There were, I think, about 4 issues identified, and that was the cover defects, the leaching breakdowns. Can't remember the other 2 items. I just glanced at the report, but didn't.
But when they came the other day, they came looking for those same 4 defects.
Right, and then on top of that, some additional items.
Right.
It was like what Bruce was saying, licensure.
All right, Miss Tammy,
Yes.
tell me your name.
Tammy Simpson.
What do you do at the landfill?
I'm the secretary scale clerk,
All right, how long you been working out there?
going on a little over 2 years.
All right. And I don't know what it is. What were you gonna tell the city council about landfill operation?
About what? Right, needing operators and stuff. They need the people that know how to run equipment, that will do the maintenance. Looked into finding a class form to take so everybody can get a knowledge of how to maintenance and how to run your equipment operate. Right, I've talked with the county. The county's supposed to be, road conditions is our biggest problem. It's been the problem since day one. When it rains, the trucks can't get from nowhere. There's times when they've had to be pulled, they've had to be pushed and everything. So, and the county is supposed to start February 1st with making a road from the scale all the way to the top to dump. So we could have an accessible road, because in ADQ rules and guidelines, you have to have a road to and from the scales, to the dump at all times in all weather conditions. Just like equipment goes down, you have 24 hours. In 24 hours, you either have to replace it with something or have it fixed. And that's in the ADQ rules. And I've gotten them all, the guys, the other one of the employees, he's enrolled to take the classes to get his license. That's another thing that's been neglected. When an employee gets hired at the landfill, there's 180 days. In that 180 days, you're supposed to submit in writing and let them be aware that you have a new employee. Within that 180 days, you also have to have your training and be going to the class to get your license. Everybody has to be licensed. Anybody that handles trash in any type of way has to have a license.
Okay, and right now, is Bruce the only person that has a journeyman license?
Yes. And the provisionals are being put in his name now also. He goes in May 1st to the 4th to Camden to do his master's. He was scheduled, I want to say in 21 to go take his master's, and it was even paid for and everything. It was supposed to be going to do in Fort Smith, but he got told not to go and they refunded the money. ADQ was sent a letter and yes, telling that he would not be at the class. So they got stopped from going.
Who told him not to go?
The previous administration. No, ma'am. It was when Reginald Wilson was there. Mr. Reginald and Bruce were both supposed to go to Fort Smith. I have a copy of the letter at the office I can get for y'all where it was sent to ADQ. The payments had already been paid and everything, and they stopped them from going.
To receive training.
Yes, ma'am, to get their license. Yes, ma'am. Previous administration didn't want operators to get, but so far in the license, they kept them down at the minimum, and some of them didn't even care if they wanted them to get a license.
Who sent the letter, Ms. Simpson?
Who sent it?
Yes.
The director,
Who?
Bobby Jones.
Okay. So that's what prevented them from taking their test.
Yes, and I have that documentation at the landfill.
Can you get that to us so I can distribute the body a letter to show them what was going on at that time?
Yes, sir.
So even with your, and I think she's in need of some stuff, office equipment, new computer and things like that.
Yes, when I come to the landfill, it was before when I guess there was an incident with theft or whatever. The auditors had everything from the landfill. So I started out with nothing. I had to figure it out as I went, set up my own system. And then throughout that time, then my computer crashed. So I had to do it all over again. So yes, there's a lot of things that are out of date. The landfill never gets talked about. I've always wondered why, as long as I've been there, that nobody's ever brought up the landfill. Landfills, that's revenue.
It's very important.
Ma'am?
I say it's very important.
Yes, I mean, we did over, I think it was like 1.1 million this past year. We bring in over $100,000 a month, easy. And that's with bad road conditions. If we had better roads to make it where the trucks can get to the cell, there's no telling how much more revenue we would take in. St. Francis County, Lee County, Phillips County, they all depend on us. This is where they come to dump at. But you can't blame them whenever it's so muddy and it rains and you have no actual road to get there and you have to be pulled or whatever. But in ADQ rules, we're supposed to have a road.
And Ms. Simpson, was you there when Mr. Wilson had gotten a grant?
Oh, Reginald? Yes, sir. I was sitting in the room.
So
yes, I heard the whole conversation.
He
got $1 million grant for a road, paved road at that, with a very low interest rate. I want to say it was 2.34, 36. And shortly after that, he was no longer needed. He was stopped from going to, he wasn't even supposed to bring a PO to the city hall. He was not supposed to do a deposit, nothing. Nobody was allowed to go to city hall or talk to anybody.
That was in the previous administration.
We've had incidents here recently where, okay, another thing ADQ wrote us up for was the litter being blown from the wind, you know, and stuff like that. Prior to that, before ADQ came, we went to H&M Bruce had called in on the radio and wanted us to get the safety fencing. That's what they put up to keep the wind from blowing the trash everywhere. When we get to H&M, we can't charge because our account is at the limit. Well, we had to go through, we come to City Hall, Miss Sandy cut the check, paid the bill. Then we still had to turn around and go back again and get another check just to purchase the merchandise that day because it takes a while for the check to go through. Well, whenever that all got done, I still didn't know nothing. Get the bill in and it says dog kennel. So we were unable to get the things needed for the landfill based on the dog kennel being the concrete, the formation and everything. It had been charged on our account. So we were unable, that's what stopped us from having the fencing.
With the new dog kennel?
Yes, ma'am. And I also received the bill for the concrete to the landfill.
So can you tell the body how much was the lumber? How much was
The
concrete?
lumber and everything was like right at about $1,000.
Did
And
you-
then I got a bill from Arkansas Concrete for concrete. Now, mind you, we don't have a place to even wash our equipment. We have to wash it in the mud. The guys have to literally wash tracks off in the mud. So when I got the concrete bill, I was like, you know, if anybody needed concrete, would be us because we don't have nothing. And it was $5,800, close to $6,000. So about $7,000 for the dog kennel. Yeah, that was charged on the landfill.
Mr. Bailey, can you tell us who it was charged by?
I think it was Patrick Carter's name. And I have copies of those invoices from H&M also. They had it poured. They had the week, I want to say last week of December, they come in and done it because they had Bruce help hold the boards up and everything when they did the concrete and had to pull him to help do it and this and that. And yes, ma'am. And they put it up in the front at the gate.
So what you're saying, the form of it, instead of Mr. Bruce working in the landfill, they took him off and had him to hold the concrete up with the board.
Right,
to
more
hold
than
the form
once,
up.
more than once.
So
yes.
could that have put us, that could have put us behind, Mr. Brewster, am I correct? They put you behind because you was out holding up concrete and you could have been out working on the sale, right?
Actually, I was up top doing the phase. I was taking the
Okay.
the trucks and I was the only dozer running, so it left that unattended. It did.
For how long?
30 minutes, less than an
On
hour.
more than one occasion,
You ain't supposed to dump a truck without being there. They ain't supposed to dump.
at any time.
He called.
Who is he?
Concrete, Patrick.
Also, so he was y'all supervisor that day?
We just met him that time and we didn't know him.
We were doing what we thought we were supposed to be doing, told to do. I guess it was.
Ms. Simpson, I was trying to check the budget. I mean, you actually do have some money. If you need a computer, it's already in the budget to do that.
We have equipment go down. Since I've been back middle of December, we overworking what's running. It puts the work on another piece of equipment and the big dozer, the main dozer we got running, and I'm in all the time, and usually it has the work of a packer. We hadn't had a compactor in so long. I'm not.
We had a previous employee
Well,
that tore up everything we had,
So did-
down to the last
You
dozer.
don't got time to shut it down. So you
Excuse me.
got.
Is the compactor not working?
Excuse me just a second, Andre. Miss Tammy, when you said tore up everything, can you describe what you mean by tore up everything?
Okay, this is his third time that he was rehired this last time. The first day he started, he tore up the dump truck. He buried it in the back. Like in 5 minutes tops. The other guy had got something in his eye, went to the eye doctor. He buried it in the back. While digging it out, that's what messed up the death manifold. And it also messed up the death manifold on the dozer that we had running. It all started then. He tore up the dump truck, the packer. The packer had to have a part order. It was like $4,000 something. It takes 4 boats to take it out. You would think it would take 4 boats to put it back in. I would have thought. Well, the packer now has grass growing in it. It never got fixed. Nothing was ever, I mean, it was like everything. We ordered parts for that track hoe. We have one track hoe with one track on it. They have to walk it on the one track from the back to get dry dirt to move the trash from the wet area. The same person that tore up the rental dozer. Yes.
So you're saying
So
literally
you don't have-
all of the equipment that was out there was torn up?
Right.
Okay,
You don't have a compactor right now.
No, sir. We sure don't.
Not in use.
so and that was as of December?
This has been happening since June. He started in June, and in June, it started from the dump truck to the track hose. I ordered the parts for the track hoe to have one track hoe officially put together right, had it pressed and everything. It was like close to $4,000 also. We still can't find all the parts to it. It never got put together properly. But whenever you tell someone nothing gets done.
So you have been, I mean, how long have we been operating without a compactor?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, because it hurts the airspace. I mean, because we have airspace that we have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most definitely. We need a packer.
The person that we're talking about that tore up everything, he's the one that told whoever that our old compactor, the motor, the engine in it would fit in the Aljon, the new
Yeah,
compactor.
Al John, yeah.
Okay, this was a old, smaller horsepower engine being put in a bigger, heavier machine. I told them before they spent $20,000-$30,000 having it done, that you should have put that somewhere else and saved it. And it probably hasn't run 3 months,
So
4
we're
months,
losing
since
airspace.
2 years ago since they done that.
Okay.
So basically, we've been trying to make it work with one dozer that we just got back because it had to have the tracks redone. A track hoe with one track on it and a dump truck that just now started back running. And that's it.
There's people who are listening who don't know what a compactor does and what it's used for. Can you explain that?
Yeah, your compactor, when you come in there and put your trash, it's leveled out, it packs it like nothing else can. It gives you later, you.
So your sale will last, you'll have more time in the
put
sale, more
trash in it.
years.
It may go another year, it may go 2. Without that, you got more, you fill in more space, so you're gonna have to come up with a new sale
Before you know
a
it.
lot sooner.
And I understand, I just want listeners to get it. So what you're talking about is the lifespan. of the
Right.
Entire landfill.
Right.
Compact trash, you get more in, we make more money, it lasts.
Exactly. It'll make it work like, yes.
So literally compact the trash everything. So we can take up the least amount of space on a daily basis and the amount of trash that's put in as we cover it. And
Right.
without the compactor, you're using more space and more space. And so eventually you lose the long-term life of your landfill
Right.
sale.
Exactly.
Right. And we recently ordered 2 tarps, landfill like tarps for when daily cover, when we can't cover, so we can try to stay in compliance with ADQ. They'll be in, I think in the next, it takes a while for them to come in because they make them, but I think it'll be in maybe next month.
We can go back to the compactor for a second. Compactor is set up with a blade on the front of it, like a dozer also. I mean, it does everything. You don't have to have a dozer up there. The compactor takes care of all the trash. It compacted, pushes it, handles it. So you don't have to have dozers up there covering a job. And without the compactor, a dozer don't pack it near as good at all. You can tell by running our haul truck across it. Just tires will go out of sight. The compactor, big heavy truck, it just leaves, small amount ruts. So it tells you how much space we're losing without a compactor.
Have you guys figured out, so it needs to be repaired?
I don't even know what it would cost to repair it now.
Well, I know they cost about 400,000, 500,000.
I've recently, the place that I ordered the part from for the packer that was supposed to be fixed, she has emailed me another packer that they have that's for $40,000 that if we would be interested in.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question.
Okay.
It's a PO that was signed for was it 90 or?
It's like 85,000 and some, almost $86,000.
86? Ms. Turner, did you see that PO? Do you know? If it's
No,
been-
I haven't seen it.
Okay, you said a purchase order in the amount of 80 something or $90,000 was signed for the landfill?
Yes, sir. On the dozer that we just recently got back that had to have a new transmission and torque converter.
Do you know who signed it?
The previous previous people.
Who are the 2 people?
Greg Williams and the mayor Kevin Smith.
So Mayor Smith never brought it before the city council, be signed for $80-something thousand in work to a dozer.
Yes, sir.
Who was the person who was over?
Bobby Jones was the director, Greg Williams was the deputy director, and then he was the supervisor. And then he had left, and then he just recently come back after they were gone.
The person who is the department chair, the person who's over, he did not do that purchase order.
It was Greg and Bobby, and then Kevin signed off on it. But I believe Greg is the one that signed the slip that day. Because they needed a $4,000 check then, so they could have the transmission sent from overseas. Because rigs come down and and that's what happened.
We have a copy of it, we'll get it.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Now, you are aware of the purchase order procedure, right? It's
Yes,
supposed to be
sir.
$5,000. It's supposed to go to city council for approval.
Yes, sir.
But the mayor consistently just spent money however he wanted to at the landfill.
The previous.
Previous mayor.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Simpson, I have a question for you. As part of your duties tell us your title again.
Scale,
No, her. Mrs.
the
Simpson.
scale clerk and secretary.
Okay. Do you receive the mail at the landfill?
Yes, sir.
As part of receiving the mail, did you receive bank statements?
Yes, sir.
Did you notice anything that was out of the ordinary that you thought that Mayor Franklin should know about?
Yes, sir.
Will you tell the council what they were?
I found out later that it was for the mini excavator. It was, I think the payment was $1,800 was being drafted out of the bank account.
Every month?
Mhm.
Is that a yes? You said-
Yes. Yeah.
So you said in that excavator, you're saying, okay,
Well, I questioned it when I seen a different draft coming out of the landfill account. But like many other times, you just get dismissed. But yes, I caught it way in advance. Because we were struggling to get equipment to keep the landfill going. And then I'm like, because we didn't even see the mini excavator till last week when they brought it out there so we could use it to clean out the ditch that's by the office to get some of the trash up. That's the first time we've even seen the mini excavator.
so
I told you guys about that,
you told us that Mayor Smith was having it drafted from some account.
the landfill.
Now, for the sake of the new city council members, the city council did not budget for a mini excavator. City council told the mayor to return the mini excavator. And the mayor signed an agreement where he said he was the legal representative for the city. And he had authority to do so, and the city council had rejected voting for the mini excavator. It was 120 something,
130 close.
$130,000. And so he started unilaterally taking it from the landfill account is what you're saying now. Is that correct?
Right, if that payment for $1,800 and something, if that is the same payment as the mini excavator, then yes,
Okay.
most definitely.
And the only person that was doing that, Mr. Turner, was the mayor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So when we said the mayor, we're talking to Mayor Kevin Smith.
Yes.
So Ms. Simpson and Mr. Simpson, you met with me late December, right? I came to the landfill.
Right, yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
you remember me?
Mhm.
And on that day, you informed me and the mayor-elect that all the equipment was not working. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and
We've
I
had-
wasn't here earlier. I was trying to figure out what happened with the charging. At that time, y'all were trying to pay off for the count and et cetera, and what happened with
Are
that?
you talking about the rigs?
H&M.
H&M, that's when we were trying to go and get the safety fencing to put up around to keep the trash from blowing out. One of the things that later on we ended up getting wrote up for with ADQ, but we were unable to because our account had been charged for dog kennel. The PO actually said dog kennel on each PO that they used. The PO number was dog kennel.
Who did that? Did you see the signature on the PO?
I'm assuming that was Patrick Carter's signature.
Not an employee.
I have a copy. I mean, no, not an employee. We didn't know nothing about it until I got the statement in. The monthly statement comes in because I get all the bills.
So you said a non-employee was charging stuff at H&M on behalf of the city?
Do what now? Yep, Patrick Carter. These are the invoices that I have. Yes, because the lady at H&M, I've talked to her and I've suspended our account Because, you know, when we need things for the landfill, we should be able to get it, especially things that's going to affect, you know, when ADQ comes. So what I do now is when we need something, I call H&M and I have them unsuspend the account, tell them we're coming, and she'll do that, and then she'll suspend it back right after we're through to keep people from charging to the account.
Who is Patrick Barr?
I have no idea. I've met him. I've really only met him the one time at the dog kennel out there that day.
Mr. Turner, is Patrick Carter on the city's payroll?
No, sir.
Okay. So there shouldn't be any purchase order with his name on it, sir.
Well, I don't know which purchase order he did. It wasn't one of our books, but I mean, the purchase order on here says dog kennel, and the purchase order, you know, it was charged to the landfill account. Because from my understanding, I believe the landfill is the only open account that the city, that we had, that was there.
And for the body, I have a purchase order from 9/12/22 for $85,725.06. I'm gonna pass that around so you all can see this. It is from Riggs. So this is what I want you all to see. That at the time when I was on the city council, we didn't get a copy of this, but this is what it is. So I'm gonna pass this around so the body can see that.
These are some of the things for the new council members. I'm sure Ms. Davis and Mr. Etherly already know this, but these are some of the things that we were going through, why it makes it difficult to pay your payroll taxes and whatever else we have to pay. When things like this pop up that me and Miss Ramsey don't know anything about this, then all of a sudden, now we have to deal with an $85,000 bill.
Now, for the record, the listening audience, as well as the new city council members, the reason why I, as city attorney, gave purchase order ordinance to you is any expenditure over $5,000, this body is supposed to approve it. And what sounds consistently from the landfill is the body was not being presented with any of the $5,000 purchases at the landfill, and then the mayor was just doing what he wanted to do. A case in point, 80-something thousand purchase order that required the city clerk and the city treasurer to review beforehand to tell where you have the money, required this body to vote.
And I have always got, you know, at least two estimates that on anything that's broke down that we've had problems with. I've always had that ready to go. It just never went any further.
Wow, yeah, if I was getting these dog kennels and these concrete out there, your employees in the landfill is walking, wading mud to get back and forth to their equipment. Sometimes the distance from, say, McDonald's to Walmart, to walk to the back, you know.
And we have to, there's pumps all the way around the landfill that have to have their readings every day. And we literally walk. I mean, in the rain or whatever, we don't have any transportation, 4-wheel drive or anything to get to the pumps. I think this morning you went in the dozer and got them for us.
So if you, I just asked you a little while ago, I said, you know, do you handle books? And you said yes. So if you were given the opportunity on a daily basis to make sure that you had all the receipts that you needed, you had all access to the city attorney, the city treasurer, to make conversation about your budget and what you need to do, then you would be fully able to do that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And
day one, I kept copies of everything to cover my tail to keep up with everything.
I believe that. And I want to say also, I admire your husband, correct? Because when he said that, you know, he stood up and he took ownership of what happened, even though you recently came back, that means a lot. That means a lot in my book. I do have a question though. And the other gentleman that was standing up there, he said that you are 2 to 3 months behind on cover soil. There's waste in the wrong places. He had some recommendations about equipment. And I know that there's not a report ready here for us to look at right now, correct? But you did say you thought that one of the things that might help would be hiring additional landfill operators, and you said truly qualified. Now, I totally, that perked my interest when you said that, because I think that whether a piece of equipment is $5 or $500,000, if you have someone who does not know what they're doing, I certainly could not go out to the landfill and do that. So when we start talking about competitive wages and, you know, you mentioned going from $13 to $15 an hour, I think, to $15 to $18 an hour. I mean, I personally would be all in favor of that, provided that there was a system of education in place.
Right.
Because what you said is very important. If you're hiring people and they don't have any idea about what they're doing,
Exactly.
you can tear up millions of dollars worth of equipment.
Exactly. It's kind of like applying for a job to be a teacher. You have to have certain qualifications or you don't even make it past that first pile. We have maintenance sheets that tells you daily, a checkoff list for each piece of equipment. It tells you step by step what to do. They would never, I mean, it's just, as far as operators go out there, I don't even want to say how many like qualified operators we have, really. I'm gonna be nice. I'm real nice.
So you do have basically a mind plan.
Yes, ma'am. I have the ADQ rules, guidelines. I have all that done up, everything. Yes, ma'am.
Sounds good.
I believe we probably used enough time on the landfill. They were inserted. We need to get to the police.
Do they have a budget?
They don't have a department head. We're gonna do that budget.
The mayor's gonna do his budget.
And I can give any figures at any time if you need help on that. I don't mind at all.
Me and you'll work together. Treasurer and chief staff will work
Okay.
on you all's budget. And members of the council, when we get that done, we'll submit it to you in time so you all can review it. We'll also put in their recommendation on what they need so you all can view it. And if it's something you all would like to change, we'll go from there. But I'll give you a draft copy so that you all can see. And I'll do a review with them and a review with you all, and we'll go from there.
I'm assuming you don't have the equipment financing proposal.
He sent me a quote for the total price. I haven't done anything as far as trying to figure out what the.
Yeah, I have a copy of it. Or I have a copy of the landfill. I can give you.
When, Mr. Treasurer, when you get a chance, will you give the members of the city council a copy of that so they can be aware of what we're doing with the finance and all those options, so that you all can put that with the budget for this department? Because I want you all to be aware of, you know, what they're looking at and what the cost of equipment is, so you all can say yeah, nay, or what we can add or what we can cut to make this work.
One of the things I said, the department doesn't have a department head, which it doesn't, but the mayor told Mr. Simpson to act as his supervisor,
Right.
and everybody has to report to him until some changes is made. And one of those changes would be a budget being adopted.
Because Mr. Simpson, he's going to take his last test in May. He can run the landfill. Mr.
Yes,
Fields
sir.
has everything he needs because he's our.
We're in the process of getting provisional now before we get.
Right.
But I'll have my master's. I should have my master's in May.
But you plan on staying with us, right?
I do.
Thank you.
If nobody
If we
stops
can get some
you.
equipment, I'm saying we, another truck, a haul truck would help much. It just rented. Now I'm a track hoe. I got several things there that AEQ is on me about that I'm waiting on a track hoe so I can do the job. The mini excavator, we'd lose it. You just don't want to put it in there.
So the mini excavators, the excavator he's talking about that was bought without this body's
Right,
knowledge.
it's too small.
So
But it's gonna help us clean out the ditch to get the trash that's overflowed into the
I need a
ditch.
bigger machine with more reach.
Right.
So you don't have to get up in it, you know, a
So-
chance of.
But
So
you-
this excavator that we're talking about is an excavator that former Mayor Kevin Smith went out and bought without council approval, and we're still making legal payments on it. So it's out at the landfill, but it was bought for the water department. But it was on a trailer at somebody else's house. The guy that we was talking about, Mr. Carter, was at his house using it for his personal use. So he was using personal equipment, the city equipment for his personal use. That's what we all got, because he brought the equipment here to City Hall, gave the keys to the clerk. So we had somebody, as I was telling this, not you, the new members, do apologize, but let me bring you up to speed. We had got an excavator that the mayor had gotten without approval. And he let the guy, because we're paying for somebody's fence, we're paying for somebody's car that they moved here on Pier Extended, that the young man used the excavator to tear down some trees, messed up a lady's fence, tore up somebody's transmission, all without this body's approval. My thing is, if he's doing work for the city, he should have some kind of license, bond, insurance that would have covered it, but he didn't. He just used it. The mayor just gave him permission to use it at will. There's other parts that he has at his house, city equipment he has that belongs to this city that Mr. Carter has at his house. So we had to go to Wire Road and get some of the city's equipment that this former administration let use. So my thing is, when they said we arguing, that's what we was arguing about. I was arguing then as a council member because I knew equipment was being used illegally. Nothing was said. But now we're stuck with this machine that we paid probably was it $20,000 to get it? So we've had some, and like I said, I'm not gonna bash anybody, but I'm gonna put the facts out here because I want you all to have straight facts. No, he said, she said. I'm gonna give you everything facts. So everything that I said then as a council person, as mayor, I'm saying it again now. You see it. We cannot continue to go down this road. So that's why when I ask y'all, tell you all that I want to do something, I'm gonna come straight through the front door, not gonna come through the side of the back door. Everything will be brought before you all because honesty is the best policy, and we hadn't been getting honesty. So if you all work with me, we won't ever have this situation again. Ms. Tammy, I thank you, Mr. Bruce.
You're welcome.
Like I said, members of the city council, I'm gonna get all the information to you, me and the chief of staff, and the treasurer, and Ms. Tammy, Mr. Bruce. We'll take their recommendation, put in the budget, and once I bring it to you all, for you all finalize to make sure that this is something we can pay for. So I thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Fields, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I appreciate you,
One thing, Mr. Fields.
Mr. Fields.
Your annual engineer, you're the engineer for the landfill. Your annual engineering report is due in March, is that correct?
Right, March 31st, yes, sir.
Okay, will all this information be included in it?
Yes, sir. And then also in addition, as part of that report, we can determine the compaction rate and see how much, how that's varied without that compactor. And, see how much loss of life we've had in the landfill without that piece of equipment around. So I could present that to the council as well.
And when you get that,
Thank you.
I would like to give it to the body early enough, so when you get it, can you get it to me ASAP so the body can have knowledge of that? Ms. Simpson, can you come back with one more thing? And then I'll be done with you.
Okay.
Ms. Simpson, you asked us to let you tell the council about the tipping fee concern that you had. The tipping fee, the fees you have to remit to ADQ.
Okay, yes. Okay, the city doesn't pay to dump at the landfill. They don't pay anything. But every quarter, we still have to pay ADQ and we have to pay the district. We have to pay one of them $2 per, the ton for the quarter, total tonnage, and we have to do the same thing for the district. But we're paying for tonnage that we're not getting any money for. You see what I'm saying? Like that, to me, I don't see how it washes out. Because I understand why they don't have to pay to dump it there, but I feel like there should be something as far as what we have to pay every quarterly for the tonnage. Because we're turning around paying for something that we're not even getting the money for.
So is that total $5.50 a ton?
But it's two, but together $4.50
$4.50 a ton.
for the total tonnage of that quarter. And that's just like airspace.
I think we need to have the city treasurer to look into that fact. Part of the balance that we've always had as the city is the city did a 2-cent sales tax and a bond issue, and the city was paying the landfill bond from the 2-cent sales tax. We've addressed this before, and the city treasurer is going to look at what is the cost and whether we should pay some money on that. But it's an issue that we do need to look at again this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson.
Now, what I'm looking at are the 3 invoices. Mr. Franklin and I went to the landfill just to meet with them on the day that I talked about. These three invoices from Home Hardware Center are all on the bottom say Patrick Carter, Patrick, and Patrick. They're December the 17th at 12:50, the December the 19th at 4:52, and December the 19th at 10:15. The three invoices have one is $775.38, 140, 167, and one is $93.89. And they all say dog kennel, kennel, and city dog kennel. While Mayor Franklin was at the landfill, he asked them when they were pouring the concrete, how much was it gonna cost? Was it gonna be over $5,000? And the concrete company told he and I that certainly it's gonna be over $5,000. He said, I'm looking at about 10 grand worth of concrete right here that we're pouring. This is what he told was Mayor Franklin and I that day. And none of that came before the city council. None of the dog parks have come before city council. And the mayor just spent money like he wanted to spend it. And that's where we are. Mayor Kevin Smith did.
So. I'm part of the police department.
Say good evening to Franklin, city treasurer, city attorney, chief of staff, acting city clerk, to all of the city council members and those of us in the audience. I'm happy tonight, and I was happy on the 1st of January when Mayor Franklin asked me to come out of retirement, which I was enjoying, to be our police chief for the city of Helena-West Helena again. What do I bring to the table? Right at 40 years of experience as a law enforcement officer, 22 years as police chief, served in various communities, city of Mariana, city of Marva, West Helena, Helena-West Helena. Currently, our department have 28 overall personnel. We have 15 police officers, including myself, 9 dispatchers, 2 records clerks, 1 CID case coordinator, and 1 administrative assistant. I've had an opportunity to look at the budget, the proposed budget, and I'm quite satisfied with the work that Mr. Turner has done on our behalf. My biggest line item that I would like to see fulfilled is having all of our officers hired. I think we're budgeted, the last time I looked at it was 40 officers. And I say that because last city council meeting, there was a big discussion, well, a small discussion about $400,000 in overtime for the police department. And that was a great concern for me as well. We are in the process of getting that reduced. Beginning this pay period, there was a vast difference in what we had been seeing in the past. I don't know what was going on and how they was doing that, but we are reducing that. And I would like to propose to the council that in 6 months, if we are able to continually reduce this overtime rate, if you all would consider a pay increase for the police department. The federal government this past year, they gave an 8.7% increased cost of living increase. And I would suggest that you all would look at least a 5% pay increase for the police department, provided that we're able to reduce or continue to reduce our overtime rate. Now, the officers, a big part of this overtime, the officers work 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. In the run of a month, they're going to get 119 hours of overtime per officer. And that's 10 officers working those shifts. I did not put the dollar amount to that, but I see you all are writing but it's 119 hours per officer, and it's 10 of them. And my biggest concern on that is these officers are working these kinds of shifts, cause me concern for their physical well-being and their mental well-being. I don't think that they are really physically or mentally ready for duty working these kinds of hours. So we need to hire more police officers to give these guys some kind of break. The liability is on the city for the way that we are working our officers at this present time. Now, they like the overtime. However, my concern is their well-being, and I'd rather have an officer reporting for duty who's ready to go, able to go, because in our work environment, we have to make decisions at a moment's notice. That's important for our community. And then too, when you look at not having the amount of officers that we are required to have, it's kind of a takeaway from, it's a disadvantage for the community as well. We patrol 13.09 square miles of geographical area. That's one of the largest in the state. That's a lot of ground to be covered. Helena-West Helena combined together. Population, which is decreasing in the 2020 consensus, is at 9,951. Last year, we answered 15,521 calls for service. And that's quite a bit for our small department. So these guys need some relief. And I'm asking you all to take it serious, putting boots on the ground. It's winter time now, it's slow. That's the norm. But as the weather warm up, it's going to get busier. And we want officers to be physically and mentally ready to protect and to serve our community. Lastly, when I came on board, I presented to Mayor Franklin, and I haven't completed just yet. I'm in the process of preparing a 3-year strategic plan that will hopefully, the objective is to lower and reduce our crime rate in this community. I would love to see, particularly our elderly people, being able to sit on their front porches, listening to whatever music they like to listen to, enjoying whatever drink they like to drink, and enjoying their families. We had it that way at one point in time, and I believe that we can do it again. So that's my goal, that's my objective for my service to this community. Are there any questions?
Chief, you said, Andre Valley City Attorney, you said that you wanted to get the number of officers up. One of the practical issues that we've discussed with the former administration is most of your people only at the patrolman and patrolman first class level. There were not many people in the upper ranks. And the approach as to how do we begin to get more officers, you're asking for more officers at the lower levels to put the patrolman and the patrolman first class?
Yes, and certainly I would love to bring in, if the officer has the experience in the higher echelon as well, the higher ranking officers, sergeants and above, if they qualify.
Okay. Now, you also said comparatively, you said 15,000 calls is what you all do a year?
15,521, that was for last year.
Okay, and that compared to the fire department had 700?
Yes, I think that's my recollection.
Okay.
We're busy 24/7, and we have the largest department in the city, and we have the highest budget in the city. And I think it's deserving of us because we put our lives on the line every day. And we are prepared to stand in, jump in front of any individuals whose life is threatened. And as a chief, I set the tone, I set the example. You'll see me riding around, you'll see me working. I'm not a sit behind the desk, chief. So what I'm asking is really the bare minimum of from the city or what we give to the city. I know that most folk want us when they need us, and then when they don't need us, they don't want to see us. So we are used to that too.
Chief Bell, you also just met with me and discussed, currently, I think you only have one part-time officer. Were
Yes,
you
that's
trying
correct.
to get the council to approve additional part-time officers?
Yes, at least 6.
6 additional part-time
Yes,
officers?
yes,
Could you tell us,
6 total.
could you tell us how would the part-time officer affect your budget? How would it affect your overtime is what I'm saying?
It's going to reduce the overtime tremendously because they're going to come in and fill in the gaps that the officers are working now, and again, give them relief. What I'm hearing is that when they get a chance to get 2 days off, they enjoy spending with their families. And so I've been trying to find that space to give them that relief. And rather than just taking their vacation and personal days just to be off, I think that they should work a 40-hour week, 2 days off, which is standardized time, working time for most corporations.
So currently, your officers are working 12-hour shifts, that's 60 hours a week?
6 days a week.
6 days a week?
Yes, that's 144 hours, I believe, and then the work cycle. They get 59.5 hours of overtime. That's why the overtime is going to be somewhat elevated just because of the working hours they're working. So 59.5, I think it's 119 a month, 119 hours a month overtime per officer.
Chief, so are you saying 6 or 7 total to help knock out some of the overtime? Do you think you probably need to select 10 part-times so you can have a rover, somebody who goes around? Because most of our officers don't get breaks. They can't use vacation. And I think with $400,000 in overtime, I think we could spare some part-time officers, because I think we had a part-time 2 class. From what I'm not the chief, I'm just saying what I would think. Though if you had somebody take some pressure, say for instance, you got 3 in West Helena, 3 in Helena. You got 2 people in Midtown. So if something happens, whoever's in Midtown can cover the Midtown area. If there's a need in Helena, one of the part-time officers can go give a person in Helena a lunch break. So then it just rover around to make sure you take some of the pressure off of Helena and West Helena, because there's no need for 3 officers to get 1 call. It should be, I mean, I'm just saying, not trying to micromanage the department. That's what I'm thinking. If you had, say, you had a demanded call on South 7, you know, the rover can come and assist the captain or the patrolman. It would take some pressure, because everybody, Helena's still covered, West Helena's still covered, and people in Midtown are still covered while they're handling the situation. I would like the body to, let's work with Chief Bell and see how can we get some more part-time officers on the ground, because when people see police present, they respect that, and more, you won't have so many crimes being committed if you can get that. Yes, sir.
But just as a reminder, and everybody might not remember this, we had part-time officers.
We did.
The last chief asked us to do away with
it.
part-time officers. And so as proof that we always tried to work with people when they can, we did it.
Right.
And then they never replaced them with full-time officers, but we were asked to do away with part-time because there was some issue about benefits and time and all that kind of stuff. That's the reason why we did away with it.
You're correct. The former Chief Smith told the body that, because we didn't have these issues overtime then, but he told the body that if we could get away with just using the officers we had, and that's how we got the influx of overtime, because you working 6 days a week, 12 hours. I wouldn't want you to come check on me and you got 6 days off. So even on your off day, you have to come to court. The officers still have to report to court, subpoenas and things like that. So I really like to see the body chief work with you on getting you those people in 6 months. As he said, we could come back and look at his budget and see how he has gotten overtime down and how we can apply some of those benefits to his department.
Chief, as it relates to the 12-hour shift and additional people, do you have a target time frame to when you're going to change the 12-hour shift with the employment of new part-time and full-time officers?
We're looking at changing soon. The only difference is it's going to cut our manpower per shift down, which again goes back to not having the coverage that we need and having the protection that we, with one or two officers working, which is not good either. But you have to weigh apples and oranges, I guess. You got a guy coming in, he's tired when he comes in, he's not motivated, his morale is down here, but he's got to come to work and went home. And if he got children, and I'm sure they're going to be somewhat interacting, so he's not going to go home and go right to bed, or he's going to get up mid-sleep. He's tired, or she's tired.
So the part-time officer will really help. And because I think the college had a program where they was helping the city with part-time officers to get trained or whatever. I think that that'd be something good for us to do, because the more part-time, if the part-timers will relieve the full-time people. I mean, if you look at the overtime, and you can fund the apartment 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4, and be honest.
Exactly.
With what we just spent with $400,000, and we didn't project this $400,000, right? So that's not projecting the budget that we spent. We would project to spend $400,000 on the police department. So those are some of the things that I want us to look at. We projected as a projected revenue that you're gonna get, but we didn't project $400,000. Am I correct, Mr. Turner?
Yes.
So, and I think,
I'd like to add that, the city council, I'm sure, well, like I said, we have some new members, but overtime, the officers get more overtime because they are short-staffed, right? And so the budget is for a full staff. The budget is for 30 officers. If you don't have 30 officers, the overtime is not, they're eating into the money that would have gone for other officers here. And so they're not over budget, they're over the overtime budget. And so the current officers are just eating into the money that would have gone for additional officers. And so when he hires more officers, the overtime should go down anyway. Another thing is that we have 30 officers in the budget, but he said 40. We have 10. We have a grant from the federal government that gives us, it's over $1 million. And so they gave us a grant to hire 10 additional officers. So he said 40, the 10 would be come from the federal grant, and they pay 75% of their salaries and benefits. We contribute 25%, they pay 75%.
but you gotta keep in mind, Mr. Turner, on that grant, it's a grant that decreases.
Yes, at 3 years. Yeah. Well, after 3 years, the thing is, we're supposed to take on that responsibility after 3 years.
And one more thing, Mr. Etherly said it so eloquently years ago that, we couldn't get to the top number. When they was talking about we was defunding the police department, Mr. Etherly was always saying, hire him. We could never get to that number. Chief, I think you can get us to that number.
Yes.
So, Mr. Etherly, I think that can satisfy you with getting to the number.
And we have to be real about overtime. I don't mix words on it. Overtime has been used in several departments as back to a pay raise.
Right.
They don't get a pay raise, and so they just the supervisors let them work as long as they claim to work as long as they want to, so that they get it that way. And so we need people to control this overtime in these departments, because some of these people ain't actually working; they're just getting paid for it.
Well, I promise you this: my department chief, if the department head can't keep the overtime down, then they're gonna be looking for somewhere else to go.
I have seen.
So hold on, Mr. Turner,
Chief
I just want to say,
patrol.
I know, but that's because we run it like this. If you can't maintain your department and keep this overtime down so we can do better things in this city, you might ought to look for another job. Because I want the people in this city to be protected. The chief, I appreciate you. I seen him out the other night at midnight. I've seen him out working, not just, stopping. I seen, and that's what I want these department heads to know, that I'm gonna watch you. I'm gonna hold you accountable. So when I get out and I see your folks leaning, not cleaning, and not doing what they're supposed to do, I'm gonna call you.
Let me say this in my defense.
I noticed that you were involved in the community. I saw you at the gift school on Friday, and I was impressed with that. I appreciate that.
Let me say in my defense, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
Yeah, come on.
When you have such low salaries, I think the fire department gave a great analogy of
Right.
the comparison from city to city. So we fall within that same category when it comes to salaries. So we may have 20 officers. They may stay a year and a half, and they're gone because they're going to make more money. We got one leaving Sunday.
Right.
It's his last day. He going to state police. State police starting off $55,000. So we know we can't match that. He said, well, Chief, since you're here, he said, I would stay. I said, no, you need to go where they're going to pay you more money and get more and get better experience. And then maybe come back if you see that state police is not working for you. But I don't mind being held accountable, but give me what I need to work with.
And I guarantee you, I'm gonna do my best to make sure you get what you need.
Thank you,
Because
sir.
once this overtime gets down, members of the city council, I want you all to take his recommendations and let's help. Ms. Miller. Miss Miller.
And I know that you are just now back at the helm, and I'm appreciative of that. I'm glad to see you back. I am looking at this overtime too, and I'm like the mayor. I think that it's excessive, and that's putting it mildly. And I do understand that you have officers who are overworked and they're working more hours, and that is a liability for the city. I'm notes to know that there's quite a difference between having $13,000 worth of overtime or $19,000 and then having $244 worth of overtime. And so I'm wondering, is this because some of these officers are just accepting it because they know that they've got to try and keep the police department running? And then you've got others who are just not interested in working overtime?
That may be an executive meeting kind of question that I might.
You know what I'm saying? Or is this a situation where there's some disparity between who we want to use for overtime and who we don't? I don't know. I do want to say that, and this is probably not going to go over well, but after 40 years, I know you've got a lot of creative ways, and we did have a former mayor who implemented what was it, like a curfew, which personally to me was a great idea. I don't think anybody else probably liked it, but I did. And so I know that creatively, because you talked about a retention plan, and you talked about, how to get the guys there and motivated and all of that. And so I'm excited to see what that's going to look like, because I have 2 friends right now who have been broken into 3 times. And it was something about the reports that were being kept. And y'all know how I feel about reports and data and documentation and keeping all of that. And it wasn't what it needed to be. So I know you're going to have a plan for that. But I want to ask you this question, and this may not be a question but pretend I'm a 10th grader, because I know that some of my peers have heard the same conversation, and I want to have the public to hear someone who would have the knowledge. And just pretend I'm a 10th grader. From the time that a prisoner is arrested, or they've gone through the intake process, and they're out quickly, can you explain like, what happens with that? Because I've heard rumors about, there's not enough money for housing, and I'm new, I don't know what that means. Can you kind of explain what does that mean?
The city attorney may be best able to explain that part, but from a law enforcement standpoint, we have nothing to do with releases. We put them in. And so it comes down to maybe the prosecutor sets a low bond, or they go to a judge and they get a lower bond and a higher bond. But the city attorney from a legal aspect could probably handle that question.
He pointed at me.
Mr. Essel's hand is up, like he wanna tackle that question, Mrs. Miller.
Yeah.
I'll pick it back on what he had to say, because he's public defender.
Everybody, except for capital murder is the only thing that you can be held on without bond. Everybody has a right to a bond, no matter what the charge. And so a charge is just a charge. A person gets arrested no matter what they are charged with, whether it be a shoplifting, a burglary, a drug charge, a murder charge, they get a bond. And if they're able to post that bond, they leave. And it's just that simple. The only people who stay in jail in 2022 or 2023 are people who don't have money. The poorest people stay in jail because they don't have resources to get out. But anybody who has means, they call a bondsman, they bond out, and the bond on a felony charge has to be set within 72 hours. And then they're entitled to get out on misdemeanor charge. They can just go down and whatever the bond is for a particular charge, they can get out. The thing is in larger areas, more affluent areas, that's not what people are concerned about. They're concerned about the system. They want to get you in the system. Once you get charged, they want to get you to court, get you tried. If you're going to be convicted, get you convicted and get you out. But here, where we lack the resources to prosecute, whether it be felony or misdemeanor, we have a backlog. People get more concerned about whether a person remains in jail because for them, that's the punishment, because they don't know what happens at the end. But when you go to areas that are more affluent, where they're able to try cases and push them through fast, nobody really cares that you got out of jail last week because you're coming back to court. You're coming back to court soon and you'll be processed faster. The system just works a little faster. So I think here it's just, particularly on felony charges, which is what most of the impacts people, I mean, in terms of, violent crime, drugs, all that kind of stuff, you may be some years getting to trial here, and that's just because of the backlog that exists on the circuit court docket. So it's not. I know what you're talking about jail. That is completely baseless. Our community, and I guess we can address that head on. There are people who are putting out information that the reason why people get out of jail is because the city can't afford the housing. The city pays the largest part of the jail. We built the jail. The city of Helena-West pays the largest share of the jail. We gave away part of our, I was one of the few people at this table saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, it's a mistake. We pay $600,000 to $700,000 per year to fund that facility. We get nothing back in return. It was a bad idea then, it's a bad idea now. The jail is never a tool to reduce crime.
Can they bill us? And we still.
They bill us on top of that.
And they bill us on top of that. We pay in addition.
And
I've heard the misnomer about prisoner care. That prisoner care bill is, we don't house women. So they go out of county. You have to pay other facilities to house those. So that's not, if it was not for the city of Helena-West, that jail would not exist.
What's Ethic, could you expound on the fact of the temporary nature of jail versus prison?
Jail versus prison. Okay. You say explain like a 10th grader. I've used this visual. A person gets arrested. A person gets charged. A person goes to court. A person goes to trial. That's the system. Where's the jail? It's not a part of your justice system. It's just a holding facility for people who can't afford to get out. What you want is you want them to be on this pathway. And that's where we don't put our resources. See, when they were talking about spending nearly $500,000 of our money, I kept saying we need to spend it on prosecution, the system, not a building that holds people, because you need to push people through this system. But lay people think when you get arrested, if you don't go to jail, then it's over. And so lay people get caught up in what they see, because what they see is what they can understand, what they can process. But that's not the system. The system is about getting people in and getting them down the road. So if you get a conviction, prison is a permanent facility for holding people who have been convicted. Jails are holding facilities for people who get convicted of misdemeanor crime, but the maximum that you get on any misdemeanor is a year. So you're talking about, the shopliftings, the, traffic offenses, the DWIs, which most instances, there are other programs for people like that may be, some get jail, some need jail or whatever. As a community, we need jails for some of those people. But that's not a permanent solution. And so we had people misinterpreting what a jail would mean. So they sold, a bill of goods if crime would go down if we built this brand new jail out here. Well, we had access to jails. We took people to other counties. We had a bill that we would pay every month. But we spend far more of our resources and money just to have the structure versus what we spent when we would transport them. It's more convenient. I don't have to travel out of county to visit my clients. It didn't have to be as big as it is. I think it means more for the county than it does for the city. But to say that we don't pay, we pay the larger share.
Right, if I may add,
Current.
As far as paying.
They take it out of our money. We don't even get it. So we have sales tax revenue.
Right.
The
well, to clear what as I said, there used to be a sales tax for the city for receiving money that we've come to know as the Port Authority or harbor tax.
Right.
The jail replaced that tax, and the city council agreed to give away all the resources we're receiving from that tax for the jail. And those resources were annual at $700,000 a year. And so the city doesn't receive that money anymore. The second thing, as it relates to, I have two practicing attorneys here, bonds in Phillips County and Eastern Arkansas are much higher than other places.
Right.
You go to other places, they're much lower because a local jail is just supposed to house the people pending trial, those who cannot afford to bond out. Most people go pay a bond, get out. They pay a bond and get out. And they have a constitutional right to a fair bond. In fact, money is supposed to be the last resource according to the rules as to a bond. If you are able, it's just to assure that you appear in court. And so what happens is the public has this misconception that a bond is supposed to be so high to hold you in jail. Well, actually, a bond could be so high that it could be violating your constitutional rights because money is supposed to be the last source. It's to guarantee you to appear in court. Now, Ms. Ethler had those things pointed out. Being arrested, being charged, going to trial. On that end is prison. And so certain people would go to prison, and when they go to prison, they leave here and go down to one of the state system prisons. And so the public is given this false narrative that a jail is to hold the people and keep them in custody until they go to trial, when that's not so. And they wonder how people get arrested again and get back out because they're required to have a bond. And so that is the misconception that the public has. And one of the things that is true about the misconception is this jail was not built to house women or juveniles. And so they go to other places, and we're at the mercy of other places to keep them if they can't make bond. But the juvenile immediately supposed to get a hearing, get before a judge within 72 hours?
Right.
And so they still would be back to court within 72 hours. And the women, they still have the same constitutional right. The bond can't be exceedingly high. And the sheriffs in other places, if they have someone, they need the space for the jail, they're saying we're bringing our people in because we have a duty to our jail, to our county, and you need to move them somewhere else. And so at some point, the city was paying jail fees all over Eastern Arkansas and some over in Western Arkansas to try to house people temporarily, because jail is just temporary, it's not permanent. And because it's temporary and not permanent, it's only supposed to be until they can either make bond or go to court. Many people right now, was after a public defender. My wife, Keisha Nunval, is a public defender. People always call, hey, I got a bond, I can't get out. And so, okay, you have a bond. If you can make the bond, you can get out. You do have a means to get out. That's your bond. And so judges tell them that regularly. And it's one of those things that if they can make the bond, they'll get out of jail. Because it's not intended for them to be held permanently. It's only a temporary housing facility until they can make an appropriate bond. and then appear in court. When they appear in court, then they continue to appear in court until the case is adjudicated. And so a large part of the felony system, what's been added is the prosecutor added 2 or 3 more prosecutors here locally. They've added additional staff. The prosecutor's office here locally has increased greatly. And the fact that if it's not being prosecuted, it's not based on that there's not things in place. Because you have Mr. Murray is here. He's the prosecutor. You have Mr. Halbert. You have Miss Amy Green. She's here. Then you have other support staff. They have a victim coordinator. They have people here. The city added 2 people to its police department to assist them. So they have a lot of resources for its prosecution. And if it's not being prosecuted, then the issue is talk to the prosecutors about it. The misdemeanor docket, I do that. And we have court every Tuesday, Thursday. I'm in the building every Tuesday, Thursday.
So Attorney Valley, I guess the reason I was sharing that with Chief Bell is because I think some of the public perception though, is that his men are going and they're going into the houses, they're making their arrests, they're letting them go, they're not really doing anything about it. And I just I was wondering, when he said plan, a plan or something he's going to share to educate the public, I think that's a really big piece of that.
That's a different question.
Is it?
Yeah.
He said they do their job, they arrest people.
Yeah.
I understand that once they arrest them, they do what they're supposed to do. If the system fails after that.
Yeah, once they make the arrest, they turn that individual over to the system.
Right.
And then the bond is set and whatever, if that person has resources to get out, that's not.
I think she was asking, why do we let them go? Why is the perception that we let them go once we make contact with them if we don't make an arrest? I guess it's kind of what I'm hearing.
I think there is some public perception.
In 10th grade terms, if I make chief and then you go forward. If you think of a track and field and you're handing a baton, the arrest, when they make the arrest, they get the person, they hand the baton, say, here, prosecutor, now it's in your court. You prosecute them. And the judge has set the bond. And from there, the police department is not their race. They've given it to someone else to handle. They give it to the prosecutor, make presentation to the judge to get a bond set, and the prosecutor to try the case. And from there, the prosecutor says, hey, jury, here are the facts. Will you convict them?
Okay, well, so I'm going to share this and I'm just going to be quiet. Because this is, I guess, the point I'm trying to make. And this is a very personal point for me. I have a friend that has been broken into 3 times. The boys who broke into her house had on ankle bracelets. So clearly they've already gone through that system. And so the officers at that time basically were like, well, what do you want us to do? Because they've already got, they've already gone through the system. They've got that. I'm saying all that to say that I'm glad to hear that there's some conversation, you have a plan. And I'm glad to know that, our mayor is going to be more proactive with what we need to do to strengthen our police department. And I do understand, Mr. Edsley, that, I'm probably arguing apples and oranges because I know that there's a process with the courts. But I think that once again, public education of what we're looking at is important.
And we're going to have some
Ms.
public
Miller,
forums.
Can I also add that, this is going back to the old time, that the discrepancies that you discussed with how some officers get so much, the auditors, they notice that as well. So it's just not you, and they want to know why this particular person is getting so many hours and this particular person doesn't. So it's not just you. The auditors have also asked those questions about the police and the fire department. So.
When you had a former mayor not letting the police chief do his job. See, I'm not trying to micromanage the chief. That's his department. He know what he needs. I'm not going to tell him, look, you just do this. So my thing is, if you let the department head do their job and let them fly and make the city look good, I'm not trying to tell him, don't. No, that's his department. If he has any issue that he need me to work on, I'll take care of that. But other than that, that's his department.
And let me clean up one thing before we leave this topic. I don't want to drag it out too long, but there are good people with good intentions on both sides of the jail argument. I disagree with, had friends that I disagree with. I thought it was the wrong move at the time. I think it was the wrong move. I'll never let that go. It was the wrong thing for us to do. So I don't want to I don't want to come across too harsh on people who support, a lot of people, because it got the vote, supported that jail, but that was just a bad idea. And we had several conversations, myself, Mr. Turner, Mayor Hollowell was the mayor at the time. And I think towards the end, he realized, kind of processed what I was telling him wasn't going to happen. He invited me to a Rotary meeting to address Rotary and share my concerns. They didn't let me speak that day. And so, but a defense lawyer fears a team of prosecutors, not a jail for his client, but a team of prosecutors who can push a case along quickly. I fear a judge telling me you got to be ready for trial next month, not next year. And so that's what I try to convey. What I do on the ground is what I don't want is pressure. And so if you want to squeeze people, you put pressure on. And a jail doesn't put pressure on. Jail gives me time to sort it out. So my client might spend a little time there, but we can get it sorted out. I can get him home. But if you put pressure on me, I might not have time to sort it out. And so if you want to have a more effective prosecution, pump your money into the right hole, not into a jail.
As we wrap up the police department.
Lastly, got one more thing before I go to my seat. I'm closing.
I agree.
I want to ask the city attorney to do one more thing for us tonight before I sit down. We had talked about an amnesty program. You recall that? Or was it chief of staff? But the amnesty program with the court, we're gonna get with the judge to
On warrants.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We've discussed that in the past. You and I haven't discussed this yet, but you and I discussed it before.
That was me.
Can y'all explain that? That's something that we want to do with the police department in the court system.
Well, there's several things that you've discussed with me, but the amnesty program, as it relates to, it is a day to come in to try to get many of our warrants served, so we won't go out and arrest them. We invite them in. You've seen it in Memphis. You've seen it in other places where they say, "Hey, today, you owe the city. You have a warrant. You come in. We can make arrangements for you to come in and surrender yourself, and we can try to work out your case today without you being arrested. So we can work out your case. You've been fined and go forward." And what it means, many times we have people come from misdemeanor court, and we're only talking about misdemeanor court in this amnesty, and they have a traffic ticket. They missed the court date, their license suspended. They're out and they don't want to come in. They had them funds to pay and don't want to be arrested and held because they can't pay the bond. And so what the amnesty would be is for them to get an opportunity, all the people outstanding warrant to come in and make an appearance before the court. And so we can begin to have them surrender and work out all of their cases. In the past, he had talked to me about, sir?
The back fines also.
Yes, the back fines as well. And what we mean by back fines, anytime a person cannot pay, constitutionally, they have a right to a payment plan. And every time someone comes in Tuesday, Thursday, can't pay, they get a payment plan and they pay $50 a month, $75, $100 a month on their payment plan. And some people fell behind. The system begins to kick out a warrant for them for failure to pay their fines. And so those people also, we've been trying to set up an amnesty today. In the past, we've talked to the judge about it. He was on board with it. He'll be here tomorrow night. But that's a day we're looking at probably doing 2 or 3 of those this year. Does that fully answer the question?
Well, one of the benefits is that the officer is most vulnerable when serving.
Everyone, right.
And so it's for the officer's safety as well, that the person just come in, turn themselves in, have the amnesty, where they don't have to run, that they don't have to pull guns or weapons or whatever, they just come in and get it over with and go on with their lives. And then for poor people, these suspended driver's license and all those further complicate their lives by them driving on suspended license, not being able to have insurance hitting your car and causing your insurance to have to pay for it because they don't have it. And so the amnesty works to the benefit of the entire community in that sense.
It helps us clean up a whole backlog of outstanding warrants.
Now, one thing I wanted to bring up that I talked to the mayor and the chief about real quickly, and that is the pay for the police chief. The chief didn't want to bring it up himself, and I can understand that. But when we started with Chief James Patrick Smith, there was a base pay of $55,000, a supplement by the harbor of $15,000, so his salary was $70,000. My understanding that his first job as police chief was in Helena-West. When he left, we elevated James Mayfield, who had 2 to 3 years of experience as the chief in Lakeview, to chief. And he's the chief who precedes Chief Bell. And their salary was $74,000 some odd dollars. And so we just want you to consider that as you consider setting the salary for Vincent Bell based on his 40 years of experience coming back to help us when we kind of in a crunch to find qualified people to assist this mayor, this administration, and this city. And so, if Chief, you disagree with any of that, make sure they know.
The door is open.
Well, I mean, and then I just, I came in on the tail end of this, and I discussed this with Chief Bill earlier. And so all of this is for Ms. Harris and Ms. Miller, that all of the previous, I think since Virgil Green, everybody's been getting $70,000 basically. And so that's why I have them in, the base pay may have said 55, but all our police chiefs have started out since Virgil Green have been 70,000, yes.
Okay.
So I told him, so I pretty much told him, don't worry about it, but I may have spoken out of line, but okay. Okay.
Sanitation department will be short. Did anybody need to take a break?
No, I just want to tell Chief Bear, thank you for coming to help us. I see the change, and I know the citizens in Helena-West see the change. And thank you for coming back home to help us. And I thank you for the officers, and to let you all know I appreciate them for getting out work, and I really do. I think you have to tell your department heads how much you appreciate them, and I do appreciate fire, police, sanitation, landfill. I appreciate all the people who work hard to make us look good. And sometimes we don't agree with a lot of things, but hey, you have to put people in place who share your vision. And my vision is Helena. So I want to tell you, thank you for coming back to help us. Mr. Collins for the sanitation department.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Treasurer, and Deputy Clerk. Well, good evening, and to the audience. Like the mayor, Mr. Bell said, mine would be very short because I'm looking at the budget and the salaries and everything, all that is in play. I mean, sorry about that. I thought I left it in the truck. But I was looking at the 2020 budget and I was looking at 23 budget and the salaries. They are, I'm pleased with that. Now, other thing, I don't know what the overtime was last year. I have no idea.
24,000, right, so that's 24,000.
All right, so.
One police officer. That's one police officer.
Okay, all right. Now, here's the thing. It probably was higher last year because they had 2 trucks running, a residential truck and a commercial truck, which is overhead that picks up commercial garbage. those were the only two trucks were running. And they were running weekend. When I come on board, we began to get those trucks, we began to get those other trucks up. But we got the other truck, we got the other side truck up and start picking up, and we caught up. Down that 7 yard, we have a little problem out of it. It run when they get ready. But what we do is the men will go out in the trucks and then they get the cans and carry it to the bigger garbage truck and dump it. I mean, we are making progress, but we got a long way to go. We got, you know where check the yard is in. And we've been working on trying to get the yard clean, and the paper mill, I think they have bailed about 10 or 15 bales since they've been there in the paper mill, when paper was at the door. So I think we are improving. And I hope that the council will give us an opportunity in 2023 to hold us accountability for what we do in 2023. Because I know our mayor will hold me accountable. And we now, the trucks haven't, okay, they hadn't been serviced. But in 2023, they will be serviced, and we will come up with a daily sheet for the truck driver to check off whether they've been checked. And that truck, if it needs repairing, any repair, the repair will be made, the mechanic will sign off on it, and it will be put in a book. Each truck would have a book kept on it, a log. And I would hold them accountable. They haven't been washed until the parade. And I think Mr. Valley said he never seen it that clean. But we are working on it. And if y'all give us an opportunity, I guarantee you in 2023, we will make y'all proud of us.
And before you go to Scott, note about the equipment, how many weed it is, things like that. The director's truck, we had a truck to be sabotaged. Talk about those things, your equipment, and what your assessment is since you've been here. When you got here.
We had a 2021 Dodge Ram. I drove the truck, about 2 or 3 days?
2 or 3 days.
Had it washed, cleaned up. They called from, wanted us to go to South Haven to pick up a compressor for the landfill. Okay, so we sent that truck to the land. We sent that truck to South Haven. And that truck went to South Haven. On the way back, it's quit. The motor's locked up in that truck. It was 38,000 miles on it.
You said 38,000 miles on it.
38,000 miles.
The motor locker. Did you call the Ram dealership?
Well, it's in wind right now. They said the wind was
It was out of warranty.
yeah, it's out of warranty.
We sent it to the dealership for them to tell us
Right.
what they think happened.
Yes, sir.
Some suspect that it was
Sabotage.
Mr. Collins, now, I spoke with you earlier today,
Yes, sir.
and you talked about needing a new side loader. I don't have any idea. I mean, and that's the conversation I had with you, was the maintenance and the upkeep, because I personally think that those trucks should last way longer than they've been lasting. But besides that, I still don't, but you never gave me a price or cost of how much you think it would be.
me and him discussed it, Mr. Turner, we just want to try to get his
Right.
budget and stuff passed. And we'll come back and look at that. We just want to make sure we get him what he needs in his department. And I was gonna bring the body of presentation back. Me and Mr. Collins and Ms. Lenore is gonna bring something back to you all. But right now, the main goal is try to get his budget passed. So whatever we're gonna do, you all be kept in the loop of it. I'm working with Ms. Lenore and Mr. Collins, as well as Mr. Valley, Chief of Staff, and the treasurer. I'll bring you in the loop, but we just want to make sure we get his budget passed. All equipment and things. I just want you all to know an update on the equipment, because I want you all on the same page I'm on. When he give me his assessment, him and Miss Lenore, I'll bring it to you all so you all can look at it. Then we'll try to get equipment. But we have lawnmowers and things like that. The garbage trucks are running. Mr. Collins came in day one getting stuff fixed because we didn't have a mechanic, but Mr. Collins have gotten trucks on the ground. We have people who have not had their trash picked up since Miss Patty. Is it the 12th of December? So it's a lot of things that we've inherited, but we have had good people to come aboard. These department heads came up, stepped up, and have helped this city tremendously. And thank you. I just want to make sure that you all know what I know. So when him and Ms. Lenore get a chance, we'll get that to you all, so you all know the main thing he wanted about his employees and salaries, and let you all know that with overtime. Now, I say this about overtime. When the summer picks up, I want to require them to do more, because when I was a council person, I got on them about the grass being over the stop signs. I know that street department, but I want sanitation department to help the street department take care of that. I want things done so people can see it, and not doing Blues Fest and other festivals, but all year round. I want this city clean. Even working with the state highway about making sure that they keep their park clean, not once a year, but all summer long, winter long, to keep it so people want to come here. So we want to look at those two issues. But I just want to let you all know that. Can be proud of it, right?
More than anything.
Right. And I mean, that's just something I think when people come here and you have pride about your neighborhood, especially I was an advocate, so is Miss Monica Davis, about these, y'all know, because I did videos about the parks and things like that. But not told Mr. Collins longer. Did anybody have any questions for Mr. Collins?
Well, Mr. Franklin, I think I want to know in particular about Miss Davis, and I think she may get on to me about it. I think I took that $75,000 out of the demolition. Out. So I know she's gonna kill me because she wants to.
I took the 75 from when we eliminated those police positions and put it in demolition.
Okay.
So you took my demolition and gave it to Ms. Davis.
Okay. But I guess what I'm saying is y'all want me to put this, but it's not in there, but I know you want that 75,000 back in there.
Now,
Okay.
Mr. Collins, I know in the past we've had miscommunication between sanitation and code enforcement. Will you pledge to work with code enforcement as it relates to demolition?
Yes.
Okay. Because one of the things that we've been trying to get code enforcement and sanitation to do, when they're cutting grass, we need to have some communication between your department and code enforcement, so we can know which lawns are being cut, so we can bill the people and keep up with records. Because the sanitation department has no records to give code enforcement. Code enforcement has no records to give me. So we don't have any records to place liens on people's property. And we're doing a lot of cutting. And before we get into cutting season, we need to make sure we get all that done. But sanitation, street, and code enforcement are communicating about it and keeping a record related to it, as well as on demolition. Because to build somebody, we must know your manpower, how many people you're using, all the things, so we can keep a record of that. And we haven't been getting that from sanitation or code enforcement to even build people for the property we're tearing down. And so that's one of the things that I would like to work with you and code enforcement and trying to get done. I've met with Mayor Smith many times about that, met with the sanitation department as well as the code enforcement over and over and over and over and over. And over the past 4 years, I didn't get a single document.
Well, this is not my first rodeo.
Yes, sir, I know.
Back when we were doing it, we had that relationship with the code enforcement and you,
Yes, sir.
and we will establish that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So if I can give this just a sound bite, he just can't help out the employees, we'll deal with the equipment later. That's what the presentation.
Any questions, any more questions, Mr. Collins? Thank you.
right.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Ms. Collins, make sure you let your department know, I appreciate them for their hard work. Make sure our trash get picked up. Thank you for all that you do for the city of Helena-West, and let you, and Ms. Lenore, Ms. Britton, thank you all. I want to thank everybody for trying to help Helena move in the right direction.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So the body has anything else? Oh, the sheet that I gave y'all earlier, I want you to take your time and look at it. With the water department, this is gonna be something for Xylem. You may see $87,665.41. That is from Xylem. We have paid them. And the other one you'll see, both of these from the water department, you'll see another one for gas, $218,761.83. These are the reasons why we have been struggling. Then you have another one from the water department. It talks about their overtime. When you add all this up, they have spent more than police and fire and everything combined. They have spent with overtime $236,593.42. So you add all three of these up. This is what I want y'all to be aware of. This is wasteful spending, and we're gonna stop it. And we got a new department head. He will be here, Mr. Murdoch, to introduce himself to you all. He'll be presenting
Thursday.
Thursday. So I just want y'all to know that when I was a council person, I didn't get to see these numbers like I'm showing you all. And I want you all to have it and know what it is and how we need to cut so we can, the money we are wastefully spend, we could pay our employees a decent amount of salaries. I do believe if you pay people what they're worth, you don't have to worry about a high turnover. Because if you're paying these people a decent salary, they want to continue to come to work. You'll cut down theft, you'll cut down overtime because they want to work, because if somebody's going to come in and get their salary, folks ain't going to leave no $70,000 job. They're gonna stay here and work. So you have to realize we need to start looking at the wasteful spending that we've had in the past. It won't happen here. I got department heads in place, got a chief of staff in place who's gonna hold these people accountable. Anything else?
One thing,
Yes, sir.
on Word Street, which flows off of
Right.
Wall School, people blaming Wall School, it's not really Wall School, it's just the rain water that's washing down.
Okay.
We need to get the engineer to go out to look at it, because the water line is exposed. I'll be sending y'all some pictures tonight. And the engineer is hesitant to do business with the city right now because the last administration did something that he won't exactly say. So he wants to do everything formal. He wants to get the council to approve anything that he does. So I told him I would mention it to you all tonight and bring it back to you all tomorrow for you all to approve.
He wants to do it the right way, huh?
To give us a plan for how to fix Word Street.
The simple thing is, most engineering fees are over $5,000 and the project's over $5,000. And he likely wants to follow the city policy.
He want to do it the right way, and that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna come to the front door.
I see you the pictures. You see exposed water line, a lady's driveway about to collapse.
So anybody have anything else? Mr. Anthony, can you move with adjourn? Second. See y'all tomorrow night.